So in this video, I want to share a quick tip which some of you might find useful. So I want to talk about the debug console in this video. Now, first of all, the debug console can be found in the game configuration section of the editor, and specifically the general settings area, and it can be found here, the debug console. By default, I believe that's off, so you turn that on, and then you can use the debug console in your game. And if you click this question mark, it brings up a page talking about the debug console, telling you sort of things you can do with it, and more importantly, the button that you can press to bring up the console. Now, the tip that I want to share in this video is another way of bringing up the console if you're struggling with the button that you need to press to bring up the console. Because it's quite a weird button that you have to press, and some people can struggle finding that button on their keyboard. They end up pressing all of the buttons, trying to work out which one brings up the console. So I want to show you in this video a tip that'll allow you a much easier way of getting access to the console. Okay? So before we get into the actual method, let me explain something first of all about the debug console. This is only available while the game is being developed. So when you export your game, so go to export game and export it out to a playable file, the debug console will not be available in that version of the game. So people who end up playing your finished product, they will not be able to open the console, even with the method I'm about to show you in this video. The method will not work, okay? But the other thing to be mindful of is it won't work for you either if this is off. So make sure that if you want to use the console, you do still have to come into the game configuration general settings area and ensure that this is on, okay? With that enabled, you can then go through the rest of this video and try this out for yourself. So let me show you how you can both open the console during a script if you wanted to, or at the very least change the key that you press to bring down the console. It's a very sort of sneaky way of making this work. You have to sort of think outside the box a bit, thinking a bit creatively. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the game configuration section. We're going to go to where it says global functions. We're going to click that, and we're going to create a custom global function. Now, you don't have to do this, but it will just make life easier for you whenever you want to open the console. So what we're going to do is we're going to type function space open underscore console. Obviously, you can call this whatever you want. Open and close parentheses. That doesn't need a parameter, so we're not going to put anything within the brackets, and then type begin. So function open console begin, and then put an end to close the function. And then between the begin and the end, very simply, what we're going to type is execute script, open and close parentheses, semicolon, and then within the parentheses, you're going to put a string, and you're going to type console. I'm going to do it in capital letters, and put a comma, and then put false. That just basically, the false basically means that anything that's already running will continue to run while this script is being executed, just to make sure that the rest of your game doesn't get interfered by the execution of this script, okay? And then click validate, okay? That's your function done. So it's just a very quick function open console with the code inside it simply being execute script console false. Okay, once you've created the function, we then need to create a quick script. So we'll just quickly create one called open console. Now you need to be careful that you do not call this script console, the one that you execute. This is not you creating that script. It's important that you do not create a script called console, or whatever you typed in the function. So whatever you typed here do not create that name, okay? So I'm just going to create a script called, for now, open console, okay? And then simply in this script, I'm just going to call my custom function open console, okay? And then the last part of this is to go back to game configuration. You're going to go to input bindings. You're going to click add binding. You're going to press the key that you want to bind to the console. So I've already done that. I press L, and you want to set it to run script as the type of thing that it does. So run script, and then you're going to set it to your open console script, or whatever it was you called the script that has your custom function inside it, and then say OK. Now if you run the game, so here we are in game, if I now press the L key, down comes the console. Now the reason this works is because what's actually happening behind the scenes is we're causing the game to error, or that sounds a bit harsh than it actually is. We're not causing the game to error, but we are creating an error, okay? Because in essence, our open console function has an execute script command in it. But what we've deliberately done is told it to execute a script which doesn't exist. As it says here, script console does not exist. And that's why it's important you don't create it, okay? So our actual script that's assigned to the L key in this case only calls the function, but it's not named the same thing. Otherwise, it would try and execute the L key script again. So you don't want that, okay? So we're basically creating a script that calls for a script that doesn't exist, okay? And in doing so, anytime there's an error, basically, the console will open, because it needs to open to show you that there's an error. So in doing so, what we've done is we've created a button that causes a really simple error, because in essence, all it is it's just a harmless, because in essence, it's not doing anything, because it can't do anything. It can't execute a script that doesn't exist. So in essence, it's not going to break the game or anything, because as well as it not being able to execute a script because it couldn't find it, we also put false in the execute script function to say don't interfere with any of the other scripts while you try and execute it. So it's not going to stop any other scripts from running either. So this will allow you a relatively harmless way to bring down the console. And then if you want to close the console, just press the escape key. You can't obviously press the same key, because if I press L now, it's going to start typing L. Yeah? But if you want to get rid of the console, just press escape. So with the combination of the key that you've assigned to open the console, L in my case, and the escape key, you can now use the console, even if you don't know what the actual key is on your keyboard, to normally open the console. Or if you want to just make the button a different one, just so it's more easier for you to find and press, even if you know what your keyboard's console button is, then again, this is another thing that you can do. And then if you're tired of seeing all these messages, you can type clear, and that will clear the console. You can also type help, and that will bring back the original text you would normally get when you bring down the console normally, okay? These are all the commands that you can type, by the way. Execute, and then you can pass in a script. Clear clears the console screen. No clip allows you to, free camera move. Nav on is your navigation stuff. And then debug on is for when you have tooltips. If you hover over something with a tooltip, it will give you IDs and things like that. So, so that is the debug console tip that I wanted to share with you. And the great thing about this is if you wanted to put it in a script for whatever reason, you could also do that, because now that you have your custom open console function, you can call that in any script at any time you want as well. So going back to our Open Console script, imagine this was just a, startup script or something. You've got your load map, etc., etc., etc. You've got display message, and then at some point afterwards, open console, and then that will open at the end of the sequence. If you wanted the console to open at some point for testing purposes. Okay. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video. It's just a little tip for how to change the console key if you can't find the one on your keyboard, or you just want to make it a different button to make it more intuitive. It would be nice if at some point later down the line, the ability to have the console be an action, that you could just assign it to a key. That would be something worth adding to the suggestions channel. But at least until that time happens, you can just simply execute a non-existent script and it will throw a harmless error, and the act of doing that will open the console. Again, I will quickly reiterate this, that if you don't have this on, then that will not work, and I press L, nothing's happening. But also if I press my console key, that's not working either, because the debug console option needs to be on. This will also be what your end result, your exported game, will act like as well. The console just won't open, okay? Because every game by default exports with the debug console off. But if you want to test your games and use this function, then you're at least going to have to turn this on, okay? With that said, that'll wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.